Perfect. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming out to the anniversary event here at the museum, our 31st anniversary event. My name is Bryan Gable. I'm the exhibitions curator here at the National Corvette Museum, and this is the Hall of Fame Roundtable discussion with our Corvette Hall of Fame class of 2025, who we have all gathered here with us. Closest to me, representing racing, is Kim Baker. And then next, representing Chuck Jordan from General Motors Chevrolet, is his son, Mark Jordan. And our enthusiasts for this year are Charlie and Jim Robertson. So, without further ado, we'll get the discussion started here. Kim, you're closest to me here, so if I'll start it with you. So, you had great success racing in the SCCA and the endurance events in the 1980s, driving the C4 Corvette, and I think what gets lost on a lot of us, even folks that follow racing, are all the challenges that come with being a privateer racer and managing a race team and having to build that type of team from the ground up, and to make it a competitive team and to make it work. So could you maybe talk about what some of the biggest challenges were that came with building and managing a privateer race team? Maybe what your typical week was like, or what kinds of things did you do behind the scenes to prepare for a race?
Sure. Well, in racing, the biggest challenge is financial. And being a privateer team and starting with very little, we had no choice but to win the races. And luckily we did that. And this just happens to be the 40th exact anniversary of my first professional win, so it's really a significant weekend for me. It's kind of actually emotional. But the challenges faces is having enough resources and the right people. I had the right people. I had the best pit crew. We picked out an incredible pit crew, and they're going to be here today. After 40 years, they're still friends. And that's the other amazing thing, is all my teammates are still with me. We're still good friends. We talk to each other every week. So it's not just racing, it's a real bonding. And luckily, Goodyear was also really good to us. We did all kinds of tire testing for them, and they helped us. They gave me a new Corvette when we won the championship. So they were a great partner. And the other thing is, we were entered at the right time because they were paying a $50,000 bonus to win. And after 4 races, I was operating on a credit card. But then we started to win. We got the $50,000 bonus on 40 years ago. And then in 2 weeks, it was my birthday, September 28th, and we won again and got another $50,000. And that was a lot different than today, because in 1985, 50,000 was 50,000, and you could actually buy 2 Corvettes for 50,000, and that's exactly what I did. Buy 2 Corvettes to race the next season. And then after that, Goodyear thought that was getting pretty expensive. So instead they sponsored us, which was, we got a guaranteed money and treated really well. We did testing all over the country, every single racetrack. And I had good teammates and good engineers. So that's the challenge, was getting enough finances and building enough strong team. After we started winning those races, we were able to buy, instead of a little trailer, a tractor trailer, and operate full-time, and I didn't have to bother with other jobs. That was my job, racing and winning. And I had the people with me were just amazing, because they knew nothing but to win. If we came back from a race after we won, it was a big party. Everybody was cheering and happy and laughing, but on the occasion we didn't win a race, there was not a sound all the way home. Whether we drove home or we flew home, it was just silence. As my wife said, you could hear the depression bouncing off the walls. But I wouldn't go back and change anything. It was just the best time of my life. And we got to work with the best engineers, automotive engineers, best tire engineers. You know, we worked with Dave McClellan. I was lucky enough on another project to work with Zora Duntov, who was probably the most helpful, friendly guy you'll ever meet. It's a chapter in my life that I wouldn't trade for anything. I wouldn't trade it for politics, that's for sure. So.
Well, awesome, thank you. Mark, we'll turn it over to you next. I know from the discussions that you and I've had, from a lot of what I've heard about your father and his career, from the folks who knew him and the other folks that I've talked with over the last few months, one of the big things that always comes up is just the passion that he had for automobile design. Just this great creative passion that he had for creating, beautiful, memorable automobiles that really evoked an emotional response from people. Could you talk a little bit more about the source of your father's passion for automotive design and maybe how he inspired that passion in others? Yeah, if you want.
Okay, where do I start here? I grew up with a great dad. I grew up, my dad, I'm going to jump around a little bit here, but my dad started GM styling, as it was called before design. He started in 1949, and I was born in '54, and I remember some of the first things I remember were being at home and watching my dad do his sketches or his paintings. They used to do a lot of gouache paintings. He was a very hard worker, very determined to go through the ranks at GM Styling, and he influenced me a lot. And my mother said by the age of 4, I could name every car on the road, so I never had to learn to like cars. But when I got old enough to see what my dad was designing, I mean, when you're a kid and you absorb these future objects like aircraft, or remember in the 60s when the space program was going on and the aeronautical industry was on the upswing, and there was so many exciting things for young people. And my dad kind of filled that whole circle. And he started to take me into GM Styling on Saturday mornings when I was maybe about 6 years old. I got so excited Saturday mornings. I'd get up and I'd go, I wonder if my dad's gonna ask me to go in today. And this was the golden era of GM Styling. This is when Bill Mitchell was boss, okay? I wasn't there for Harley Earl, that was before, but the energy in that place. And I remember just driving up to the tech center, which was an amazing facility in itself, opening the executive garage, and I was in anticipation. I wonder what kind of Mitchell concept vehicles are going to be in the garage, because Bill always had his cars on standby on any given weekend. But I'm getting a little off subject, but my dad he was so generous, and he was so generous with his time. And one of my great Corvette memories was in '62 when my dad got promoted at age 35 to second in command at GM Styling under Bill Mitchell. The first thing that day, it was a Friday, he drove home the Mako Shark. And I remember I remember I was out with my mother and my two sisters. We were shopping. We came home and we went in the front door. My dad was there, and I go, "Hey, where's your car?" And he says, he said, "Go look in the garage." And so I ran outside because I was just a through and through car nut. I opened the door, and there was the Mako Shark. There's still heat coming off the pipes, and you know, any one of Bill's concept cars was exactly like his personality, kind of flamboyant and unapologetic, but those cars had so much. I like to think of that time as being spiritual more than just memories, because if I see a '63 Riviera that's silver with a silver interior, it brings back this whole era of time when in the '60s at GM. Remember, they had the '63 Stingray, the '63 Riviera, the Tornado, all these one hit after another, and this is really Bill Mitchell's most prolific area. But going back to your question, my dad was a very serious designer. He had to play politics, of course, and as he rose through the ranks, he had more and more management duties. But early on, he did some very significant designs. One of them being he grew up in Whittier, California, on a citrus farm, and when he got asked to go to GM, he wanted to do trucks. And no designer wanted to do trucks, but my dad had been influenced by farm equipment and farm machinery, and that's when he did the Chevrolet Cameo. And so then he did the Buick Centurion. He did a lot of significant cars, and they were all expressive of his personality, his philosophy. You know, they wanted to push the envelope, deliver the wow factor, and have a real statement, not just trying to evolve something or trying to copy a design he liked, but to actually really get down and dissect what is a good, long-lasting, fresh design. Did I ramble too much?
No, that's great.
So,
well,
might have gotten off track there.
no, that's great. So Charlie, Jim, I'll turn it over to you next. There's a phrase that I know that you both have heard before that all the folks in this room will probably hear a few more times before the weekend is out. And that phrase is, "You come for the cars, but you stay for the people." And I feel like the both of you embody that phrase and what it means and the spirit of that about as well as anybody that I've met in the Corvette community. So maybe could you both just speak to maybe just what, in your opinion, makes the Corvette community, so special in terms of its, friendships and the people you meet and the relationships that you build. What is it about this community in particular that stands out?
That's pretty easy for me. Our Corvette Club, Circle City Corvettes in Dothan, Alabama. If anybody needs anything, they'll stand up for you. It's written up somewhere. We wrote it up, but in 2018, Hurricane Michael hit our house in Marianna, Florida, as a Cat 5 storm. It wasn't supposed to be a Cat 5 storm 100 miles inland. And we had 6 trees on the house, and we didn't even know he was coming. But there was a contractor in the club in Enterprise, Alabama, who showed up with 2 men, a crew, a trailer of plywood, synthetic felt, and I had hired somebody to take the trees off the house. And they would take a tree off the house, and he would fix it. And by that night, our house was dried in 3 days after the storm, and nobody could get a contractor because everybody was just totally busy. And then they show up last year. We had an auction at our event, and the club members, they bid up stuff, and We gave money to the museum. I can't remember how much in the museum, but we gave it was $10,000 to the museum, and I think we gave $6,000 to 6 local charities. So if we need anything, they show up.
Well, I'm going to use a statement that I'll probably say in our speech tomorrow night. But the museum is like family, is like a home, and a home you can call family. And that's what this museum is all about. And that's why Jim and I, we work really hard to encourage more people to become a part of the museum. Because, to be honest, Corvette is one of the best sports cars to create family, the community. And there's nothing that nobody will not do to help you out if you're going to need assistance. Whether you're trying to get auction items signed, whether you're trying to, like at the races, when I had a major fall, and luckily one of the ladies in the Corvette Corral had bandages, so I could bandage up my knees and go back out and take more photos. It doesn't matter. It's always somebody there that will come to your aid and help you, and that's the Corvette spirit. It is not something that you'll see in so many of the other different cars. It is Corvette. And that's what we need to do. We need to encourage all of our young people and all of our new owners. We have so many new owners. And we need to get them so that they can help continue the traditions that just make Corvette great. So when we all get home, look for those new Corvette people, look at the young people, invite them in your cars, and try to get them to join the NCM, join your local clubs, and start supporting the family.
That's great. So we'll do a second round of questions here. Kim, turning it back to you here. You were talking before about the importance of being able to build that race team, have people being able, to work toward a common goal, to keep going back to the next race. Another big team that you were on was the ZR1 24-hour speed record run team, and that was something that was another really kind of a ground-up effort that you and a lot of your fellow C4 racers put together. Can you talk a little bit about what stands out from the planning of that and the actual record attempt, and were there any really anxious moments during that whole process where you weren't sure if the plan was going to come together or if it was going to work?
Well, I had full confidence that was going to work. There was testing beforehand, and we knew that it was going to be a record that we would break. The Corvette is just so durable. It was the perfect vehicle for that and powerful enough. And Fort Stockton was the perfect place to do it. It's a 7.72 mile oval, and being a 7.2 mile oval versus Talladega or Charlotte or something, it's a lot better on the car. For instance, the G-force isn't that high. You only turn the wheel this much when you're going through the corners at Fort Stockton. We had the full Corvette development team making sure everything was right, so that was a big help. The team that was on it was an established team with knowledgeable people. The drivers were good and no problem, but the real hero of that event was definitely the Corvette ZR1. I don't think you could do it as easily with any other car. It's just so darn durable. We drove those cars not just 24 hours, but in 48-hour tests, and almost nothing would ever break on those cars. It was pretty unbelievable. So that's, I didn't have any doubts. I don't think anyone had any doubts. At one point, it started to snow. That was a little bit of a doubt in my mind, because I actually was in the car at the time, and there were snow flurries, but luckily they weren't that bad. Another time, I was coming out of turn 2, and there was a coyote, so that was the second little snafu, but he was smart enough to get out of the way. So it was a pretty flawless run. There was nothing unexpected. We didn't repair anything, just changed the tires precautionarily. We probably could have gone the event without changing the tires, but as long as you're putting fuel in the car, you have plenty of time to put on the tires. And the pit stops, we developed pit stops really fast in the Escort series, and they used the same style on this car. And of course, the brakes were never applied except coming into the pits, so we didn't have to change brakes like you would in an endurance race. But just as an aside, we were regulated on the racing, we were regulated how fast we could put in fuel. So it would hold 20 gallons of gas, and it would take just about 2 minutes to put the fuel in. But personally, our pit crew was so fantastic, we could change 4 tires, 4 calipers, pads all around in the time it took the fuel. So in 2 minutes, all that stuff would be accomplished. It was pretty amazing.
I'll throw out a quick reminder that the ZR1 that Kim and his colleagues used to set that new 24-hour speed record is actually here at the museum on display in the performance gallery. So if you haven't seen it before, go back there and check it out. It's super cool piece of Corvette history. But anyway, turning it back over to Mark next. One of the other things that I often hear about your father's career is his appreciation for lots of different types of automobiles. He loved his Ferraris. He also loved pickup trucks too, at a time when most people kind of thought, trucks were just, utilitarian and couldn't necessarily be stylish or beautiful automobiles. And of course, your father had this long career with General Motors, where he worked with Cadillac, he works with Opel, worked with several different design studios and work units within General Motors. So could you maybe tell us more about how your father's appreciation for a wide variety of automobiles influenced his design work?
I think my father, he was a through and through car nut. He really liked commercial vehicles when he was growing up. That influenced him quite a bit. But my dad's, I would say, almost his first love was Ferraris. And how he got hooked up with Ferraris, he used to go to Road America with Zora. Early on, they became pretty good buddies, and they used to go to Road America and watch the sports car races, Corvettes and other sports cars compete. And my dad saw his first Ferrari there, which was a 166 Barchetta, and he said, boy, the moment he saw that car in action, he heard it, he smelled it, the whole visceral experience, he said he was hooked on Ferraris. And so the other stepping stone for Ferrari was that Bill Mitchell was good friends with Battista Pininfarina. Battista would be given projects to do, especially with Cadillac. And my dad was part of Bill's corral, kind of a potential executive management around Bill Mitchell. So anytime these guests would come for lunch, my father was invited. So Battista was getting older, so he started to bring his son, Sergio Pininfarina. And my dad and Sergio were about the same age, and they struck it up. They struck a friendship. And Sergio was able to make some arrangements to have my dad meet Mr. Ferrari. This is back in the 60s. It's one of his first trips to Italy. And the cool story is, I think it was about 62 or 63. Sergio arranged for my dad to go to the factory. He had lunch with Enzo, talked about car design, and he said Enzo was very stimulating. Well, obviously there was an interpreter. But after the lunch was done, Enzo asked my dad, would you like to go with me for a test drive amongst the hills in Maranello? Because I'm going to test a 250 GTE for the brakes. So my dad, oh yeah, sure, I'll have to think about that, right? My dad said they went up in the hills. He said Enzo was cutting the corners, from oncoming traffic. He said he was really scared, but then he thought, hey, this guy was a professional racer. He did quite well. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the ride. And so anyways, he had this connection to Ferrari. And all throughout, I think my dad got his first Ferrari. He had been transferred to Opel in 67 through 70. He was a director of Opel Design. Sergio found him a Ferrari Lusso, and I remember I went with him. We went to Milano. We picked up that car, and that was his first out of many Ferraris. And so he had Ferraris all the way up until until the end of his life. Okay, what else am I supposed to answer? Because I get off on tangents here.
No, the Ferrari part was great.
Oh.
Maybe about the influence of the pickup trucks and.
Yeah, so I've actually, since my dad has left us, I've had a lot of chance to read through his materials, which he left me. I inherited those materials. My dad grew up on a citrus farm in Whittier, California. I think my great-grandfather was raising oranges and lemons and walnuts. But my dad, early on, before he could get his license, they would allow him to drive these, like old Mack trucks or so, within the farm area. And my dad got really fascinated with machinery and with commercial vehicles. And so when he went to MIT, and his thesis was based on future trucks, future commercial trucks. So he always had an interest in trucks. And when he built his, I don't know if you know the story, but back in that time, GM offered a contest for a young person to make a model, make a new design model, and then you would send it in and you would get judged, and if you won in certain categories, you'd get a scholarship. Well, my dad did that model at MIT. He stayed at Christmas one time. MIT made this model. He won first prize. That's how he got into GM. They invited him back to GM, and Harley Earl kind of offered him a job then. But what I'm getting at is when he finally, his first day at GM, they said, well, where would you like to go? Most guys would say, I want to design sports cars, or I want to design fast sedans, or whatever, or coupes. And he said, I want to go to trucks. It's like, what? Trucks? Nobody wants to go to trucks. That's like purgatory. But my dad had this vision. My dad figured, hey, this last generation of trucks has been going on so long. It's time they're going to do a new generation. His timing was spot on. But his claim to fame was the 55 Chevy Cameo truck with the first premium pickup with the flat side. Those were actually, some of those pieces were made from fiberglass from the same factory that made the early Corvettes, the 53 and 54 Corvettes. And that truck, that configuration, that concept is still what we have today. So, and he had a patent on that, and I still have the patent model at home. So he did trucks, and then Harley Earl assigned him to do his first Motorama car. But Harley said, hey, we got all the car divisions, but we don't have GMC. We don't have a commercial division. So my dad did the La Universal. I don't know if you know what that is. Kind of a minivan that was in the 1955 Motorama. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Next question for Jim and Charlie. So you guys have seen obviously a lot of change over the years. You've been to this anniversary event at the museum for many years, but not just here. been involved in your local Corvette club for a long time, been going to the races essentially since the beginning of the factory Corvette racing program. Could you guys talk a little bit more about how any of these Corvette activities that you've done, whether it be activities with the club or the race team or here at the museum, like maybe maybe how things have grown or changed over the years? Just whatever stands out.
Well, the BOP certainly's gotten worse. Hello? I have a green light. There you go. I have a red light. Hello? Hello? Okay, now it's working. All right, well, on the racing part, you could say the BOP's gotten worse. But as for the racing, we've certainly got a whole lot more crowds. The Corvette Corral has gotten a lot of activities between the seminars and the drivers. You know, now we have 3 major teams running in IMSA. So like at Sebring this year, we had like 3 autograph sessions and 3 times where the drivers would come and talk to us. And of course, there's a whole lot more people at the races. So the racing part has gotten quite large, but very, very exciting. Okay, I love racing. So and I can't wait to go to Petit Le Mans. As for the club, our club is very, very tiny, but our club is very passionate. We do a lot of activities. We try and support local charities as well as the National Corvette Museum anytime that we can. As Jim said, this last year, our club really did well for the museum and have. Since 1998, our little club of about 50 members has donated over $220,000 to the museum. So we feel like that's really good.
Yeah.
And then I think with the museum, you know, the museum has grown. We saw this morning how many members that is now with the museum. And so I think that's really great because the more that we can strengthen the museum, I think the more that we will always have Corvette with us, and that's our whole goal. We want to see this sports car in the future. We want our children, grandchildren to be able to drive the car also. So I would say things are looking very, very good, and things are growing, and I think that's great. Anything to say?
The only thing I see about the racing is I kind of liked it when we just had the 3 and 4 car. I can't keep up with them now, but I love to tell stories, and we got a couple of friends back there, Amber and Steve Stone, and they moved to Mariana during COVID, and they kind of got stuck in Mariana, and they got 4 kids, 3 daughters and a son. So I met their daughters, and they started walking dogs with me, and then we talked to them about Corvettes, and then they bought a new C8 Corvette. So we had a club thing, a parade, where we take queens. I can't remember which one it was. We do several of them. And so I invited one of their daughters, Anna, to go with me and take the Corvette, and the queen would ride on the Corvette. And she had just got her driver's license. She's 16, 17, I don't know. Anyway, when we left and got out of town, you know, country road, and I pulled over and said, "You want to drive home?" And so she's driving a C7 Corvette home, and first time, and I took her out to eat. We pull up to a restaurant, and I said, "Back in that parking place." I never backed into a parking place. How did I do that? So I said, "Well, put it in reverse, look in that camera." And she backed it up into that place perfectly. Then we got home, and I saw our parents who were sitting right there, and I said, "Your daughter now, Anna, is a certified C7 driver." So there's stories like that. You just got to bring people in.
So I'll pose a question for everybody here next. Do you all well, since I know we all have Corvette stories, and we all have our favorites. So what is everybody's favorite Corvette that you drove, that you raced, that you worked on? If you had to pick one, what's the one that stands out?
Testing.
Yep.
I like them all. That's the problem. I never wanted to get rid of one of my Corvettes, but I had to get the next one. I have incredible fond memories of my '84 Corvette, the one nobody really liked, because I won the national. That was my first road racing national championship, was with the '84 Corvette. And then the following season, I got a few '85 Corvettes because I liked the '84 so much. And my memories of that one are, we won championship races, won a lot of money, grew the team. The car was incredibly durable. And there's no feeling like winning a 24-hour race, even though you're 100% drained. I mean, you're ready to you can't fall asleep, but you can't stay awake. It's like weird. Because after 24 hours, you don't go to sleep after the race. You go through tech inspection, you go through the celebration and the award ceremony, hopefully, and then you have to drive home or fly home. So every 24-hour race is 48 hours long or longer. But my team and myself, we thrived on punishment. We loved working hard and not getting any sleep and spending all our money. It was great. And then I remember my first ZR1. Now that was a great car too. It was super fast, and we actually won the first professional race that a ZR1 won, and that was the 24 Hours of Mosport. And the car just ran flawlessly. That engine was so strong, it was unbelievable. We didn't change anything, fix anything, we just kept driving. There was like most sport usually has, there's rain and dry and rain and dry. That was a little bit of an issue, but that was the only issue we had. And of course, like was mentioned before, that 24-hour record run, that was real memorable also. And then running through, then I had a C5 Corvette and a C6 Corvette and a C7 Corvette. Now I have a C8 Corvette, and that's my love now. I just think that's the best car ever made, especially for the money. It's unbelievable. I love that car, and I'll probably just keep that one, but I will get another one. If they come out with a C9, I'll get that too, and hopefully somebody will sell me a ZR1 at a good price. I want that right now, so if there's anybody out there that's a Corvette dealer, please let me know. But that's pretty much it. I can't think of a Corvette I don't like. I even like a '53 Corvette. I think that I'd like to measure the drag coefficient of a '53 Corvette because I think is really good. And the Stingray was such an evolution. I love that car. It's just, I can't pick out a bad one. And the Corvette people are unbelievable. I do a lot of driver instruction, and when I drive with Corvette people, they're unbelievable. They do exactly what you recommend, and they don't debate you about it. If I instruct at a Porsche club or a Ferrari club, it's really a nuisance. They've got a debate every time you tell them, this is where you apex, this is where you step on the gas, this is where you brake. They've got to debate you on it. And I just had a conversation with Wesley about that, and he explained me the reason. So I won't mention the reason, but he figured it out before I did. But anyways, there's no bad Corvette. There's just better ones every year.
My Corvette story. Every one of the concept cars came home at one time or another, especially through the 60s. So I had told you that my dad brought home the Mako Shark, and in the time period, in the early 60s, this thing was so futuristic. And I remember he brought it home on a Friday, drove it to downtown Detroit on a Saturday to his tailor's. That was really a great memory for me. It was just, when you're a young kid, 8 years old, and you're riding in the Mako Shark, like, this is just a spaceship, something of a different planet. And it was the future, you know. And it just, like I said, Bill Mitchell's soul is in every one of his concept cars. Okay, next one would be, we had the Mako Shark 2 home, the Manta Ray home, the Mulsanne. I remember I drove the Mulsanne for a weekend, just me. And so, yes, I was not working at GM. I lived vicariously through my dad, but I have so many great memories because I loved cars. And I would sometimes, when I was a young kid, I'd wait at the window on Friday nights to see if my dad was going to bring one of the concept cars home. One of the ones that was home frequently was the Monza GT, you know, with the canopy. That was such a great car too. But one story that not too many people have heard. We used to have this in our local village in Michigan. We used to have this Labor Day parade. And my dad would always arrange for some concept cars to come that we would drive in that parade. And we had Ford executives, Chrysler executives, and GM, so everybody was represented. And one of the last ones before I went off to college was we had the Aerovet home. And it got dropped off, and the keys were in it. My dad said, well, take it out, but be very careful. So I was driving the Aerovet around. That was pretty cool, you know. And another time I remember we had the Manta Ray home, and it was a Labor Day on a Monday. My dad didn't want to drive it in traffic on Tuesday morning, so he says, Mark, Monday night, he said, Mark, take the Manta Ray back, go get my regular company car. So it's like, wow, this is cool, you know. So I feel like I'm bragging a little bit, but it was just such a, to drive these Corvette concepts, I mean, that was the ultimate, right? And I just have so many great memories, and I feel like they were such special experiences. But the one to top it off, and the Corvette I love more than any other Corvette is the '59 Stingray Racer. And I was at Michigan International Speedway in the early '70s, and Chevy had all the concept cars. They were going to do a parade lap. And I think it was before a kart race. And my dad said, which one should we drive? You know, like he had first choices. He said, let's take the Stingray. So we drove that Stingray around. I remember my dad kind of waited. He kind of held back, you know, and gave himself a little distance, just nailed that thing. It was the most visceral car to ride in. So, but those are all great Corvette memories. But I think the Stingray was probably my most indelible memory of Corvette.
Testing. There we go. Okay, that is a terrible question. We have gone through 12 Corvettes, and everyone has a story. Everyone we have loved. Everyone shed tears when we had to sell them. Right now, we do have 3 Corvettes. We have a 2019 Grand Sport Sebring Orange for Sebring. And we have a 22 Rapid Blue with a tension blue interior. That car, oh, I love that car. The color is gorgeous. It just brings all kinds of people stopping by and letting us know how much they love the car. The final one is a 2009 GT1 Championship Edition, VIN number 3, that belonged to General Motors. However, I'll let Jim tell you about that story. So the one I'm going to give is the 50th anniversary. When we first saw that car, I fell in love. I thought it was the most beautiful car ever. Then at Indianapolis, they had the pace car graphics. Okay, I was in love. So we ordered the car, and I went after Dave Hill, please, 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 let us have the Indy package. So on June 30th, when the museum had their event, Jim and I were volunteering at the Corvette plant as tour guides. And we got to the point of where the car was starting to go down the line, and we got to walk the car down the line. And then, when it got to where you couldn't walk anymore, I hope I don't get in trouble, the employees would sneak us behind the barriers so that we could continue to walk the car down the aisle there to see it being built. And I also got to start the car at first start. And then on August 30th, back at the museum at their Labor Day event, Jim and I picked up the car, and Dave Hill, the Corvette chief engineer, gave us the keys and gave us a little talk. So I thought that was very cool. Well, it didn't end, because at 3 o'clock that afternoon, they moved the car down into the rotunda, kind of like where that big hole was when it caved in. They had our car there. And Jim and I renewed our 25th wedding anniversary vows in front of the car. So, thank you. So that made that 50th anniversary really cool. And then David Hill came and finally agreed to let us all get the pace car graphics. So we got the graphics on the car. And if you've ever seen the 50th anniversary with the Indy pace car graphics, it is beautiful, just gorgeous. And I shed some very strong tears when we had to sell it to get our 2014 Laguna Blue C7. But that will always stay very strong in my memory.
Okay, my favorite is that 2009 GT1 Championship Edition, and it's Tom Wallace's fault. He's sitting back there. But we were at the museum, and they had an auction, and we bought. Anyway, we bought an auction to go to General Motors and headquarters in Detroit, and so then Sebring came up, and it's 2009. They had 6 of the GT1 championship cars at Sebring, 3 black, 3 yellow. And then Harlan Charles, he told Charlie, he said, when we were designing that car, if we saw something and we thought you would like it, we put it on there. But if you didn't like it, we didn't put it on there. So,
So I was the model.
So then the race was over. We came up here to Bowling Green. Then we went on to Detroit to do our tour. But Tom had retired, so excuse me. Kirk Binion took us on the tour headquarters, took it out to Milford. We went around the proving grounds, and on the way back, Charlie told him that she wanted to order a GT1 Championship Edition, and this was like a Tuesday, and he said, well, last Friday was the last day to order one. And the next thing he said was, why don't you get Harlan to sell you one of those 6 that was down there at Sebring? And so he called Harlan and Mai, and then Kirk and Debbie. We all met at Joe's Crab Shack that night in Detroit. And I asked Harlan if he'd sell me the car, and he said, I don't care, sure. So I guess a couple months later, they called and said, where do you want to deliver it to? And so then it was Charlie's birthday in May, and the dealer called and said, we don't know where your car is. It didn't show up. And it turned out that a few days later they called, and the truck driver's father had died. And so instead of stopping at the dealership, he went on to South Florida, and then he brought it back, and then we got the car. But it's VIN number 3, and it's kind of a rare car, and it will eventually wind up here at the museum.
we have to end the discussion there, but big round of applause for our Corvette Hall of Fame class of 2025. They'll be around later this week, and we'll be here for this weekend too, for other questions and other opportunities to chat. But thank you all for coming to hear the roundtable.